Welcome to the Meria Heller Show, the internet's original podcast. Since the year 2000, always ahead of the curve, always on your side. A true warrior for truth and justice, Meria and her guests leave nothing out, and no one is off limits. There is only one truth, the rest is lies. Sit back, enjoy the education with a true daughter of Mother Earth. Sharp New York wit, spiritual knowing, and a very dry sense of humor, Meria will dissect the news and lies to make it all palatable. Education is power. Meria delivers rapid-fire truth like no one else can. Here she is, the mouth that roars, the legendary Meria Heller.
Good morning, world. Meria here, alive and kicking. Welcome to The Bigger Picture with myself and my excellent co-host, Michael Reccia. If you're not familiar with Michael's work, please get over to josephspeaks.com. And I'm going to start the show with a disclaimer, okay? Sometimes you guys send in questions that can't be answered. There are no answers. There's no time to go into all of that, especially dealing with the collapse of the field right now. So if you do have personal questions like that, you're always free to send them to me. If I can answer them, great. But there's just not enough time to cover everything on the show. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Meria. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you didn't mind my throwing in that little disclaimer.
No, not at all. Not at all.
You know, I mean, I know people,
everything.
I know people count on us to know everything, and it's impossible to know everything. At least, using the small part of our brain that we are allowed to use while we're here.
And also, there's only a certain amount of time for communication. I mean, there's an urgency with Joseph in that he comes through whilst I'm in trance. He delivers his chapter on whatever he wants to speak about, whole cloth, and then he will ask for 3 short questions as the energy fades. And that's it. Right. And that's because they've got to punch a hole literally in the field to get to me. They've got to connect to me, and then they've got to deliver what they consider to be important out of all the topics that they could talk about. They deliver the topics that they think are most important and relevant to the change that needs to come about. So there's only a small window of opportunity.
Well,
and as we've been discussing before the show, Meria, as we get ever so slightly older, that window of opportunity is harder to keep open because we have less energy as the field encroaches on our physical body.
Right, exactly. Well, at least Joseph takes 3 questions. I was watching the president yesterday at a ridiculous press conference, and he only took 1 question. So, listen, if you don't laugh while you're on this planet, man, this planet will eat you up alive.
Absolutely. We have to see the funny side.
Yeah, I mean, what does Joseph say about having a sense of humor?
That is extremely important. And all the guides that support Joseph and all the guides that I've been in touch with for years all have a rich sense of humor. You know, no matter how highly they evolved they are, how much light they put out, they see the funny side. And I think there's a feeling generally that there must be a reverence from the guides and a reverence from us to the guides. But it's nice to be able to treat them as, I don't want to say human beings, because they're not human anymore. They are the spirits that they originally were. Right. But as colleagues who can share a joke and can come through to cheer you up and see the funny side of things. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what they are. And that's very reassuring, isn't it?
Absolutely. Listen, a few times when people were channeling to me, they all pick up the same name for me in spirit. They call me the Cosmic Comedian. And even my listeners, when I'm doing the horrific news, will say, you have me laughing my ass off listening to you get out the news. Listen, if I don't temper it with humor, I don't know. I don't think anybody would want to stay on this planet.
No. The humor is healing. Having a sense of humor and seeing things as ridiculous and laughing at them is a healing process. It makes us feel better, and it makes us better, literally.
Absolutely. Well, I must tell you that I'm feeling a lot better reading your latest book that you sent me. Many Voices, One Mission, Group Soul Wisdom from the Joseph Perspective. And, just when I thought, well, I read all his other books, this is really going to be a lot of the material that was channeled, I am loving this book almost as much as Your Life After Death, which, as you know, is my personal favorite.
Yes, yes.
There's always more to learn. But before we talk about some of the things in your book, because there's so much good stuff in it, I do have a few questions from Patricia, and I thought we would get to it.
Yes, indeed.
She wants to know if you feel there's enough positive energy and light being put out into the universe to change the negative energy at this time.
I think the question is rather, is there enough positive energy being put into the earth and around the earth at the moment to change things?
Right.
The rest of the universe, from what we've discovered from the guides, and as far as they know, and again, this is back to the original topic we brought up of we can't know everything. The guides will always say, as far as we can see, as in as far as we can see into the universes that we are able to see into, as far as we can see back to the Godhead. And as far as they can see into the rest of the universe, or universes plural, there is that correct balance of positive and negative energy. It's here, as a result of the fall, where things are skewed. And is there enough light? No. There will be enough light when enough of us join together. There's enough light to make a difference here and a difference there. But the whole point of the Joseph mission is to bring that information through that says you need to put out light daily. You need to surround yourself with light. You need to surround those you love with light. You need in particular to surround those that you don't love, don't like, can't get on with light. And you need to charge the planet with light too. And that's an endless supply. There is enough positive energy that we can take from the well, but we have to go to the well. We have to go to the heart center. We have to plug into the God within daily as often as we can. And we have to surround the situations and permeate the situations that cause us problems and are causing the planet problems with light constantly to create an atmosphere of light within which spirits, us, can see where we're going wrong and desire, and that's important, desire to put things right. People have to desire to put things right, not just realize that things are wrong. And the light that we send out gathers together and creates an atmosphere within which people can actually see what they're doing and can examine what they're doing and then make a decision to put things right. So is there enough positive energy to put things right? Yes. Have we transmitted enough energy to put things right yet? No. We have to see it as our sacred mission daily to send out the light, to join together, and to keep on going, and to keep going to that well, to keep drawing from that well of God energy and pouring it out into the planet. Then eventually there will be enough positive energy and things will change.
Well, that sounds good to me. The difference that I have when people ask me, and I've been advising my students, my clients, my friends, we need to actually do that more than once a day now.
Yes.
Once a day just doesn't cut it, even for myself. I must do it for myself at least 3 or 4 times a day. Just that protection, that light, that love, because it just seems like we're all under attack.
Yes, we have to come to the point where our life is a prayer. Our life is a connection permanently to the light. And it's difficult at first because we have to think consciously of putting the light into a situation. But after we've been doing that for some time, it becomes second nature. And that's what, as you quite rightly say, we need to do at this time, to make putting light into every situation, sending light towards every person, sending light out into the planet, that has to become second nature, so that we are constantly channeling light out into the world and to each other. But we do, our vibration changes as we begin to send light out. We become a light, we become a beacon, and we are able to be used even in those times when we are not consciously sending out the light.
Right.
Because that light signature that we create by sending out light links not only to similar lights around this planet, to similar people who are sending out the light around this planet, but also links to those in higher vibrations who are seeking to change things through us. So they are able to use that light signature, that lighter vibration that we've created by sending out the light constantly to help when we're asleep, when we're watching television, when we're walking down the street, when we're not consciously sending out light, because we've elevated ourselves by putting in the homework in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because, as you know, I studied the medicine wheel with Sun Bear when he was alive. And at the beginning of our studies, he says you have to work and learn the medicine wheel until you become a medicine wheel. And, of course, the medicine wheel is all about the light and our interconnectedness and interdependence on everything. So I totally understand what you're saying, that we have to actually become the light. Now, because I've been reading your new book, and there's some things in there that are pretty mind-blowing, one that made me think for a very long time, but I do have one more question from Pat before we get to it, and I'm still thinking about it, by the way. But here's an interesting question, and I've never heard this before, so this might be new to you too. She says, what does Michael think about the fact that some people say a person who does trans-channeling has the potential of having their DNA changed from the spirit that channels through them? And if you've ever felt that yourself, that your DNA has changed because of your trans-channeling.
I certainly feel that my physicality has changed and become more sensitive, and not necessarily in a good way, over the years that I've channeled Joseph, in that I have become gluten intolerant. And so one of my favourite pastimes ever was eating. I mean, I'm half Italian, and to have a pizza and to have pasta and that type of thing was fantastic for me. But I became breathless, I had palpitations, I would go dizzy, I felt like I was dying, and it turned out to be gluten intolerance. And it is as though, as my body has been used as part of a higher vibration over the years, it has become more sensitive to some of the heavier vibrations of the earth. So I've seen that change in myself. I've also seen a change in the way that I view things, that I am able to detach myself from my personality viewpoint more often than I could and see things with a higher viewpoint. And that is through linking to Joseph and through linking to his group soul. Whether that has actually physically changed my DNA, I have no idea. I would guess that it's simply that I feel my earth body becoming heavier and my true self becoming lighter. And the connection between the two is more difficult to maintain as time goes on, as it is with us all. But I mean that consciously it is more difficult to maintain and to manage my energies, to manage my earthly energies, my spiritual energies, fine. But trying to integrate those with my physical body, particularly after a trance session, has become quite difficult. I know I talk about it in the books quite a lot and say it takes a great deal of time to recover. But as I'm getting older, that great deal of time to recover is becoming worse.
Right.
And it goes with the territories, I'm sure you'll agree, Maria.
Oh, absolutely. I feel you, brother. But here, one Italian to the other, because we can never really totally give up pasta. Number one, this whole gluten thing is because they're putting so much more glue, which is what gluten is, in most products, especially here in America. But one of my smart Italian sisters said, and treated me to, she had ordered me pasta from Italy that's made in Italy. And I had absolutely no problem with it.
Ah, right.
So you might want to import some. Make sure it's their real, semolina pasta from Italy. Yes. It's got to be made in Italy because they don't use gluten.
There's hope for me yet, Maria. That's very good news.
Hey, listen, the day I can't eat pasta is the day I might as well leave this planet. It's probably the only reason I got here.
I'm the same for me.
I remember years ago, my doctor said, listen, you're carbohydrate intolerant. If you don't want to be chunky, you're going to have to give up carbohydrates. And I looked at him and I said, are you kidding me? I'm Italian. So I'd rather stay fat. But of course, eventually I did give them up and I did lose the weight. Okay, so that pretty much takes care of that. Now, I have to tell you, like I started saying before, Michael, I'm always surprised. There's always so much more new in what you write, even though a lot of these transmissions are from 10, 20 years ago.
Yes.
So I think this is just as important a book as any of your other books.
I think it certainly throws a light on the workings of a group soul. And it also throws a light on the amount of work that needs to be put into a mission such as the Joseph Communications. It shows that there are many, many different people involved in bringing this information through. It shows that we were prepared for the information, and it shows that they are of one mind in bringing through the light and in trying to change things here. I mean, it's all well and good to say, well, we've got, 7 books and they're all by Joseph, but you don't have a different perspective that backs that up.
Right.
But the unseen story is that from the time when the first book was coming through, we were being prepared by many of the guides that have been around me for as long as I can remember. And they would drop into the conversation references to the fall. In fact, they actually had us sit in secret, privately, for a full weekend with 5 different spirit personalities coming through to talk about the fall in order to prepare us for the actual book that Joseph brought out. So it has been a tremendous mission, and we wanted for some time to be in a position to publish the lectures that we were given as preparation and support for the Joseph mission. And we finally, it's a great feeling, it's an hallelujah moment, we've finally been able to do that and to make them public because we felt that they were extremely important and that people should see this material.
Right. Well, I would say that I'm at least 4/5 through the book. And again, I like to read your books right before I go to sleep, and that may or may not have been a good idea this past week. But when I'm reading this book, all your other books make more sense. I don't know if that makes sense to you, what I just said.
Yes, it does, because you have the background. When Joseph is coming through, you get Joseph's information, but you don't know where he came from. You don't know how the journey was undertaken so that Joseph became the spokesperson for the group soul. And that there are insights from the other guides that totally fit in with what Joseph is saying, what Joseph was about to say at various points during the delivery of the communications.
Right, so it's like
I think it's a very important background book, but also a book in its own right if you haven't read anything by spirit guides.
Right, exactly.
And want further insight other than everything's going to be all right, which of course it isn't, unless we change things.
Right.
So I think it's important. And it also shows the humanity of the guides as well. I mean, there's a lot of personal stuff in the book, and that was included by the guides, and this is the way that we communicate with them. They will talk to me, they will deliver their message, but they'll also deliver personal messages for us. And if there's something funny, they'll laugh about it. If there's something sad, they'll be upset about it or angry about it. And we fortunately, because I've known these people for decades, in fact longer than that on a spiritual level, I'm able to put into the book background information, so that you can say, oh, this person was such a body, and they lived in such a place, and this was what their life was about. So it's actually fascinated us, because we've sat on the information for so long because we've had to keep putting further books out.
Right.
It's great to be able to read it and say, yes, it's out.
Right.
It's out.
Absolutely. Well, we also get to hear your story. How you and Jane got together, how the Band of Light got together, and I could see your humanness in your story. Right at the beginning of the book. That you felt that because of your work, you weren't destined to have a relationship in this lifetime. And I see so many similarities, because for me, I've had plenty of relationships, but then there came a point in my work where there hasn't been one. And there hasn't been one for a long time. It's like I'm living for my work. So maybe you were better off getting your younger years to get your work together and then your relationship. But the similarities are interesting to me. Not just that, but a lot of these guides are very familiar to me. and very similar to some of the guides I know I have.
Yes.
So I'm going to take a wild guess and say we're both members of the same soul group.
Yes. 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 Which is a vast concern. That overarching story of the soul group, I think, is very important, because we've had people ask on our show, haven't we, about soul groups. Mm-hmm. And it's very rewarding to know that as we progress through the spiritual spheres, mm-hmm. we grow closer together. We're not absorbed one into the other. We are still individuals, but we unify in purpose. We unify in harmony. And you know what it's like, Maria, if you have a very good friend over and you think, that was such a satisfying evening or such a satisfying lunch, because you revel in the other person, in their personality, in what they bring to your life. Now imagine what that is like, enhanced and multiplied by millions of souls. Mm-hmm. So that every soul in your soul group is a close relative, closer than some of the earthly relatives we have.
Oh, yeah.
And every soul in your group has an important story to tell and something important to add to the mix, and you never tire of listening to them. You never tire of visiting them, although you can be by yourself or with whom you want to be with, whenever you want to, and then go back to the soul group. And even more important, you can connect to those souls. You can experience their life experiences, and you can also join together with them to create. And that's a wonderful thing. We create here singly, don't we? Or we join together in groups. For example, the Band of Light, there are 4 of us that sit to raise the vibrations, because we're sitting together to allow Joseph to come through. And they come through having modified their vibrations to connect. Mm-hmm. Imagine what it's like to gather together with millions of souls and to pool that creative ability to actually create the landscape that you're in, to actually create the type of buildings that you live in, to actually create the surface of the sphere that you live in, to create beautiful objects of art and then to pop them away again into the ether so that they're not polluting anything, but to bring them back, to be able to bring them back whenever you want to experience them again. Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience that lies ahead for us. Mm-hmm. And of course, we're connected in that way now, but we just don't realize it.
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you, I know you're lucky enough not to have to cover the news. So that's another thing I'll be kicking my own butt for when I get back into spirit. But news worldwide, especially here in America, is this soul group of 17 to 18-year-old kids who want to change everything on this planet. Do you see them as a soul group or a special soul group?
They're in the news, Maria, are they? They're saying that they're a soul group.
They don't say they're a soul group, but to me, when I look at them, we had 1 million kids protest for better gun laws in this country. At the same time, They were protesting, the kids were protesting in Russia, they were protesting in Israel. I have always anticipated this soul group that would come in, volunteer to come in to fix the mess that we have here. So when I look at these kids, which, by the way, are getting demonized by a lot of people, I see them as a spectacular soul group.
Yes, yes. And we need the numbers. They need to be able to support each other. So you're probably quite right. They will have connected before, and they're young. They're not polluted by the field to the extent that we are as we get older. And they should be encouraged. They should be held up as an example of what to do, not what not to do. And yes, there are spirits that are coming in, and aren't they brave? Aren't they brave to come into this particular lunatic asylum?
Right, super brave.
To put things straight.
Right, I think they're beyond brave.
And we should pray for them.
I do, and believe me, I just look at these kids and I say, this is who I've been waiting for my whole life.
Yes.
I'm sure you've heard that expression, we're the ones we've been waiting for.
Yes.
And when I look at these kids, when I started teaching, almost 40 years ago, I knew that there was this special generation coming in. And every generation I got disappointed. No, this isn't it. No, this isn't it. No, this isn't it. But so far, this has given me more positive feelings than I've had since the baby boomers were out in the streets protesting.
Oh, that's excellent. I hope that their parents and their relatives recognize that those children are special and create an environment within which they can grow and continue to evolve spiritually, can continue to connect to who they really are and bring through that power and that light.
Right.
I mean, we've gone through a couple of generations where it was looked at as evil if somebody saw something. Mm-hmm. If a child saw something that was beyond normal reality, a reality in inverted commas, it was looked at as, we've got to get this out of you. This is wrong. You've got to take your place in society. Well, it's time to change society, and it's time to encourage those children, if they are psychically gifted as well as spiritually gifted, to bring through their guides, to talk to their guides, to treat that as being normal. Mm-hmm. Then they can deliver something of worth to the rest of mankind during their lives here on Earth.
Right. Well, I work with parents and grandparents of these children, and I work, every now and then with these children. And I basically do encourage them to, they pick obviously the right parents and the right grandparents if they connect the kid to me. But I always encourage their teachings. And actually this week I recommended to a 15-year-old that she read all the books on your site because she needs that background information to be truly effective with her gifts.
Yes. I don't know what it's like there, Meria, but there's a dearth here of people who are capable of teaching the next generation of spiritually visioned people. For example, the spiritualist churches here do not provide any form of solid, disciplined development for their fledgling mediums. It doesn't happen as it used to, and I think that's another sign of what dire straits we find ourselves in.
Right. Well, I often recommend these kids find a spiritualist group because they do have great learning techniques.
Yes.
But I also, I've been teaching this for so many years. I can always refer specific books to these kids or whatever, or if they are welcome to always come and study with me. Anyway, let's get back to the book because I didn't expect to talk about these two topics with you because I like to do your books in order, but I can't help it because two things really stick out at me and I can't get past it. I don't remember which guide it was that said it, but he says you're always in two places at the same time.
Yes.
And that was one of those things that make you put the book down and think for several days about what you just read.
Yes, yeah, because if we think about it, we are. I mean, on a physical level, as we say we're in a meeting, we're sat there in the meeting, and our mind is somewhere else. We're thinking about the holiday we had last year, or we're thinking forward to something we're going to do next year, or we're returning home and seeing that everything's safe at home, or we're worrying about someone. We are not in our physical body. We have placed ourselves somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But we have a spiritual mind. So whilst we appear to be connected to this reality and this reality only, we have a greater self, a greater mind that is connected to all eternity, to all infinity, and has a place in the group soul that we are a part of, and has a place in the journey through the spiritual spheres that we are journeying through as souls to get back into infinity, to move out into eternity and then into infinity. And so we're never just seated where we think we are. Our physical body is just a gathering point of information on this level, as is our physical mind. Our spiritual mind can be somewhere and anywhere else. How often do we see people who are on their deathbed and their relatives half a world away are visited by them?
Right.
And they see them looking great and solid and seemingly in the flesh, but they have traveled there in their spiritual guise to say goodbye before they go on. So they're in a hospital bed, and they're also visiting relatives and saying, I'm on my way now, isn't it great?
Right.
So we're constantly traveling on a spiritual and mental level. We're not where we appear to be. And that makes it easier, I think, to meditate, because we can then project ourselves into the visualizations that we surround ourselves with during meditation, to effectively get away from the physical body and away from the physical mind, to receive healing and to receive the energy and the information we need to put the best into our days for ourselves and for other people.
Well, yeah, the other way I looked at that, being in two places in my own meditation, what I realized for me is that part of me is here and most of me is in spirit or somewhere else.
Yes.
And I would think that if it wasn't the case, I'd have been dead a long time ago. So
Yes.
it's just something to
Yes.
really think about. And this book will give people pause if they take the time to really read what they're reading. I do have a lollapalooza of one that we're going to come back with from break. So stay with me, Michael. We'll be right back. Hi, Meria here, and I have a message. Due to the pressure of the times we're living in, I'm calling on all students and millennials to get the education they need to fight the fascism taking over our world. I've made a special subscription offer for students and for seniors on a limited budget. For just $9.99 a month, you can subscribe and get that education. Over 500 hours of real education that's necessary to understand the world, the problems, and the solutions. Remember, knowledge is power. Together you can change the world, but to do so, you must be informed of what's really going on and have real facts to support you in your endeavors. It's time for all the grandmothers to take a stand and teach the younger generation what their life could be and how to get there. Help me help you. One person cannot do it alone, and the guidance you seek is right here at www.meria.net, meria.net. Your generation is the generation we've been waiting for, so let me help you. Thanks for listening. Hi, this is Meria Heller. If you're enjoying this show, please consider listening to the rest of it, along with hundreds of other hours of education, by a small subscription on my site. Get over to meria.net, meria.net. You are the only thing that supports this show. There's no corporate control, and there's plenty of education on site. So please consider either a subscription or a donation to keep the work going. There are too many alternative voices out there that are being silenced because of lack of support. So if you don't want MSM to be the only mind-controlling news out there, please consider supporting the people that support you and help us all save something for the future for our children. Thank you so much.